Hi everyone. I must apologize that it's taken me so long to come out with this next video. Um, I'm going to hopefully be able to stick to a weekly schedule. What I wanted to do for this video is to cover something that I covered in the video on using photos and text, but as Jody was kind enough to let me know that at around the 40-minute mark, the screen capture wasn't working, so it just stayed on a single static screen. So I apologize for that. I am going to record that last little bit. It was only about 20 minutes or so, and it was just basically covering how to work with photos on large products like blankets. So that's what I'm going to do in this lesson now. I'm just going to turn the volume on this down a little bit because it seems like it's going very loud. A bit more. Okay, hopefully you'll still be able to hear it. Okay, so what I'm essentially going to do is just cover working with large graphics, and I will make sure I check videos from now on. I normally just check the first couple of minutes just to make sure the sound is working and all that, but seeing as we had this issue, I will make sure I check throughout the video that everything is working as it should. So we're now going to go into our store. So you'll go in, log in if you are logged out. I just stay logged in. So to get to our store, we're going to click on that, click on your little avatar, your profile photo in the top right there, and we're going to go to my stores. Okay, we're going to go to the store, and there we're going to go to products. Okay, and then you'll see this is the wedding invitation that we've worked on previously. We're now going to create a new product. So when you click on create a new product, you get the full catalog of all of Zazzle's blank products that you can work with. As I have said before, now and then I'll just give you a little reminder of certain things. So these blank products are listed in the order of popularity. So in other words, invitations are the top seller, business cards are number 2, then you've got these foam board signs, round stickers, blah blah blah. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a blanket just so that I can show you things you need to be aware of when working with large products, with putting photos on large products. So we're going to we're just going to search. That's the easiest way to do it. So I'm going to search for blanket. Okay, I'm very briefly going to click back here. Yes, sorry, I just wanted to make sure it is the recording the screen. Okay, so blanket, you can see there are all these different options for blankets, and then it moves on to other things, duvet covers, etc. But we're going to look at blankets, and you can see fleece blanket is in a medium size, is the most popular. Then second is baby blankets, then the smaller fleece blankets, and the large Sherpa blankets. So we're going to create a fleece blanket, so you just click there, and as usual you get the blank product and the option to add your design. So we're going to go add the design, and what we want to do is, let's say we want to have a full size photo with maybe a family name on it. So this is a photo that I've downloaded from Unsplash. So if I click on that, okay, so what it normally does when you add a photo or any kind of image is it will either put it in at the size, oh gosh, sorry, I struggle with words. Let me just show you what I mean. If I click on that logo, see how that is very small in the middle, whereas this photo extends all the way across. The reason why is this logo, that's the maximum size. This photo, because it's fitting all the way across, it means that it could be made larger. Okay, so I'm just going to delete that. Alright, so this is the photo. We're not sure if it is large enough at this point to cover the whole blanket. So to see, we go to, you make sure you've got the photo selected here, and then on the right hand side you're going to click this full button. So now you can see it expands it to fit the whole blanket, but you can see that the blanket extends past the boundaries of the blanket. So what you need to do is you move your mouse over this little white sort of line there, and when it becomes a double arrow, you click and drag. And what you want to do is click and drag it to this red line. So you want to get it onto the red line. It doesn't have to be exactly precise. Do the same on the right hand side. Okay, so now the photo, we'll click fill again just to make sure it's absolutely filling that. So this is now covered the whole blanket. So if we look at this here, that's the photo over the whole blanket. What we're going to do now, before we do anything else, because there's a danger of forgetting to do this, so with the photo selected, we're going to go to this, make this a template object, which we have used before in previous lessons. So you click on make this a template object, and what that is doing is telling Zazzle the customer needs to replace this photo with their own image. So when you click make this a template object, you get these options here. So the image parameter name, it sounds complicated, but it's really quite simple. Every time you add an image, it will add a number here. So this one is image 1. If I add another one, hello, there we go. Okay, so I've added a second photo. If I go here and click make this a template object, you'll see it's automatically made it image 2, and this part you can change to whatever you want, because this product page label is what will be on the product page when the customer goes to personalize the template. So they click personalize, opens up this, and there you can see image 1, image 2. So let's go back here. For now, on the left hand side, I'm going to go to layers, and I just want to make this one, image 2, invisible. So you just click, when you mouse over it, you see that little eye symbol. If you click on it, it makes the object invisible. Click on it again and it comes back. It's visible again. I don't know why, it's very slow. Okay, so going back here, this one is called image 1. We want to change that to something a little bit more friendly, so we just change it to photo. Then at the bottom here, you will 99% of the time use fill for images. All that is doing is saying this is the frame for the picture. When the customer uploads, they replace this image with their own, make sure that it fills the whole this area here. So to show you kind of what that means, if you go there and now we click change image, okay, and I'm going to change it to this one. Okay, so what it's done, again, you can see now that the photo covers the whole blanket. If I were to change it to fit, if I change it to fit and I go and change it back to the other image, see what it's done now. What it's doing is it's saying take the new image, so the image that the customer uploads, and fit it into that frame. So the only way that this image can fit is by oh Lord, I'm so sorry, words. Hopefully you know what I'm trying to explain. This photo is wider than and not as tall as the original image. So just to go back to that one, so you can see this image fills the whole thing. As soon as I'm just going to redo that change, because we selected fit, it's now going to fit the new image into that frame rather than filling the whole thing. Okay, so that's just to show you what the difference is. Fill is the default. The only time I've ever used fit is for logos. So if you're doing business cards with logos, the logo, if you do fill, that can be a problem, because I tell you what, I'll do a separate lesson on business cards with logos, because business cards are popular. So don't worry about that for now. Generally, when you're using photos, you're always going to use the default, which is fill. So you don't have to worry about it. It is the default. Okay, so we've added in our photo now. But what I want to show you is, I'm just going to delete that one so we don't get too confused. Alright, I'm going to replace this photo again using this change image at the top right. And this time I'm going to select this one. Why is that not? Okay, sorry, that's not going to work. Alright, so I'm going to rather just select this. I don't want to look at myself. Okay, let's do, there we go, perfect. Alright, so what I've done is I've replaced it with this image, but as soon as I do, you see this little yellow circle with an exclamation point there. You can also see it over here, and you can see it on the layers tab there. You mouse over it wherever you like in any of those three positions. Okay, but here it gives you a little more detail. So it says this image is larger than its original size and may be blurry or pixelated when your product is made. Please replace the image or make it smaller. So what it's saying is, in order to stretch this image to cover the whole blanket, Zazzle has to make it much larger than the original image. So that's a problem, because what that means is by stretching it, you lose quality. Because essentially an image on a computer is made up of, well, not just on a computer, when you print it as well, it's made up of tiny little squares of color. So, you know, this just the white square here will consist of thousands of tiny little white squares. But what happens is when you stretch the image, it stretches those squares. So they will become much, 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 much bigger. And that means that your image will start to look, you see how it's blurry? Because it's been stretched too big. And so all of the little squares have been enlarged, and it's not going to work. So what you need to do is, if you upload an image that you want to use, and this applies to any kind of image, even when we get on to using sort of illustrations and things like that, as soon as you see this little yellow circle and you mouse over it, it'll tell you this image is larger than its original size. So it just means it's been stretched too big. so you can't use that image. So what do you do then? Well, you can get photos that are large enough. If I go to uploads here and open full image browser, so these are all the images I've got here. So if we look at the size, so you just mouse over it, at the bottom right you see that little eye in a circle. Click on that and it'll give you some details about the image. And what it tells you is the dimensions are 3000 pixels wide by 829 pixels tall. So this is way too small, way too small. If we go and have a look at this picture, these pictures were all fine. So if I click on the eye there, you can see this one is 4317 pixels wide by 6475 pixels. This one was one I enlarged even more using AI, and you can see this one is 15,968 by 10,646. So what do you do if a photo that you want to use is too small? So in other words, when you place it on the blanket, it gives you this little yellow circle. Well, you need to, the easiest way to do it is just to find another photo. When you download a photo, so we're going to go to Unsplash and let's just search for family. Alright, so well, you can see there's the photo. If I click on it, this download free, it's got the little arrow. If you click next to the arrow, it will tell you how big the picture is. So you can see you always want to download original size. You don't want any of the smaller ones. So original size is 7,984 by 5,323. So that's a really big size. You know, in terms of dimensions, when I first started on Zazzle, I had no idea. I'd always done design for web, online design, websites. And I had no idea when you're designing a blanket, how big do the images have to be. So it's one of those things that you will just learn. But in the beginning, the easiest way to do it is just download pictures. If you're going to do a blanket like the one we're going to do now, which is for families, I'd suggest you have a look through whether it's Unsplash or Freepik, and just download a number of photos that you like. The important thing when you're on Unsplash, I'm sure I have mentioned it before, but I'll just remind you, is you click on that license arrow there and choose free, so it only shows you free images. So we're going to go down, like this one's a very nice one. Let's just have a look at that. So 4,310 by 6,720. Let's see. I'm going to just put that on the desktop. Save. Alright. And by the way, this guy, Nathan Dumlau, I'm not sure how to pronounce it, he has some very nice photos. So if you see a photo you like, what I usually try and do is go have a look at that person's portfolio and see if they have other photos I like. Just when you first start looking, you'll have to click on this load more to see all of their photos. And you know, he's got some cute little kids here, but anyway, so let's also just, while we're here, download that little dog photo. That's cute. We'll do something with that. Okay, so let's go back here, and we're now going to replace our photo. I'm going to change image, upload an image, top left, that button, and we're going to okay, it's not going to let me upload both of them at the same time. Why? Because I clicked on the change image button, so it's only going to let me, you can't replace one image with two, so it will only let me upload one at a time. So I'm going to do that. Now that it's finished loading that one, I can now go back and upload the second one as well. But I'm only going to click on this one. I'm going to choose that one. I'm sorry, I don't know why my internet's so slow. So just to have a look at the preview, sorry, in the bottom right there's that little preview. If you click on that, you can see the different views of the photo. And there we go. So having looked at, we've got the photo covering the full thing. You saw there was no little yellow circle. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to change the size to large. Alright, so immediately you can see it says, heads up, there's an issue with this design. See details. This image is larger than its original size and may be blurry or pixelated. Okay, so because I changed the size to large, this, and you can see from the preview with the people that it is a lot larger. So you can see the problem is now that because I made the blanket larger, this photo is not large enough. So you can see it won't allow me to click on the sell it button because there's this problem with the image that you have to fix. So we're going to go to personalize this design, click on edit using the design tool. And now we can see, what did I do wrong here? It's because I changed the size, sorry. Because I changed the size, you can see now the boundaries of the photo extend beyond the red boundary of the blanket. The reason why you need to do what we just did a minute ago, where you mouse over that little white line there and click and drag so that it's on or inside the red line, and then we click fill. The reason why is if you leave it like that, and I'm just going to make it really wide here. If you leave it like that, and I'm a customer and I now want to replace that photo with this photo, for example. Now can you see it's cutting off part of the photo because the photo actually extends beyond the boundaries of the blanket. So that's why it's important to make sure that your photo covers the whole area of the blanket, but it doesn't extend beyond it. So as soon as this starts happening, you are going to cut off the person's photo. So it is important to make sure that your image fits within that red boundary of the blanket. Okay, so we've now changed the photo and we don't have that problem anymore. So this photo fits on a large blanket. Okay, so we go back here, you can see it's the large blanket and there's no more error message about it, and you can now sell it. This is where the customer will go, and you can see they will just then replace it. So let's go back, and now let's say that we want to add some text. So as usual, you're going to go to text on the left, click on the add text button, and I'm going to put in the dog's name. So let's say this is a dog blanket and we want to put the dog's name on it. Okay, so I'm going to move it down there. I'm going to make it white, and I'm going to make the font much larger. Let's go 900 in the size. Okay, let's make it a bit larger, 1200. Let's see. Okay, now you see what happens. I'm trying to make it 1200, but it just changes it to 1000. That's because the maximum you can enter here is 1000 for the font size. But let's say I want this a bit larger, so all I have to do is just narrow it a bit and then move the mouse over the the white circle, any one of the white circles, but I'll move it over this one, and you see it turns into that double-headed arrow, and you click and drag and you can now make it much bigger. And if you see here, the font size has gone above 1000. You just can't enter a number above 1000 there. Okay, so let's see, let's say I'm happy with that. And we've covered all of these other tools here, so I'm not going to go into that. And obviously this was just a font I recently used, probably in the last lesson, so it will just automatically use the last font you used. Okay, so let's say I'm happy with that. I now need to make it a template object, so I'm going to click on that little slider down there, and now the text one is there, and we're going to say name, or you can say your text, whatever it is that you want to explain what this is. Now this looks great because there's a dark area that the white text is over, but let's see if we can. Well, it's actually going to work with all of these. I tell you what, I'm going to make the text black just to illustrate my point. So now, because the text is black and the photo that the customer has uploaded is dark at the bottom, you won't be able to see the text. So what do you do about that? Well, you create what I call an overlay. It's a gradient overlay. So I'm going to go, and I think what I'll do, I'm trying to think where I can do it. I'm not sure if I can do it in the group, because it'll just be easier if I just give you ones that I've already made. So I'm just going to show you. It's very easy to make your own one. Sorry, I can't multitask. Let me just find it first. Okay, so I'm gonna upload both of these because I've got one in black and one in white, and I'll show you what I'm talking about now. Oops. Okay, so this is the overlay gradient white, and there's an overlay gradient black. Oops, sorry. Okay, so the text that we have is black, so we want it to show up no matter what color or colors are in the customer's photos. So because the text is black, I'm going to put the white gradient in. Okay, so all I'm going to do is move it right to the bottom, and in the layers tab on the left, you can see there it is, overlay gradient white, and there's the photo. So what we want is we want this overlay to be between the photo and the text, so it must be on top of the photo but under the text. So you click and drag it, so now it goes text, gradient, photo. So now you can now see the black text over the dark background because we've put this white gradient in. Oops, there we go. And you can see you just need to make sure that it's all the way to the bottom. You can also, if you need it to be a lot taller, you just click and drag it to expand it. This can extend off the blanket, it doesn't matter. You can move it up and down. Maybe you don't want it so white at the bottom, you just want it more subtle, so you can move it down. The important thing is that you can see the text over the photo. So this is the white gradient. I'm going to change now to the black one because for the most part I'm not a huge fan of the white overlay. I just feel the black one looks better. So we've put in the black overlay gradient, and now I'm going to change the text to white. Okay, and then I'm clicking on the gradient again, and I'm just going to drag it up a little bit. There we go, that's good. Alright, so if we look at the photo, no matter what photo the customer uploads, I'm going to go click on the photo again. It's usually easier to click on the object you want to work with on the left here, because you'll see if I want to click the photo and I click here, it's actually selecting the gradient, because that's above the photo. So if I want to select the photo, easiest way is just to do it in the left. Click on the photo. We're now going to change it, and I'm going to change it to this one. Okay, so you can see once again it works nicely because we've got that black gradient over it. Move it around. Now, as I said, it doesn't matter that this extends off the blanket or the canvas, because this is not something the customer is going to replace, so it doesn't matter that it extends. It should actually extend past the boundary, the red boundary of the blanket, because you want to make sure that it stretches across the entire blanket. Well, not the entire blanket. We're not worried about the height, but it must cover the entire width of the blanket. Okay, so now, as I said, you know, when you want to select the photo, as soon as you mouse over here, you can see that pink sort of border that shows up. That is the boundaries of the overlay. If you're a customer who wants to come and customize, you know, whatever it is, they're not going to understand when they click there, why is it not selecting the photo. So what I do is, whenever I use one of these overlays, I select it, and then in the left here you see the little padlock that shows up to the left of the thumbnail there. If you click on that, what it does is it freezes that, well, it locks that gradient. Now you can see if I come over here and click, it doesn't matter where I click, I'm either going to select the text or the photo. I can't select, even if I try on the left here, I can't select that gradient because it's been locked, which, oops, oh gosh, I don't know why, every now and then this happens. It's actually good that it happened, because it says press and hold to confirm you're a human. Now sometimes it'll do it a few times while you're busy. I don't know why it happens, but I'm actually glad it did happen, because I would have forgotten to tell you. Okay, so let's go back. Alright, so the why is this photo? It's bizarre. I'm just clicking and dragging again to get the photo to fit the full blanket, and just to make sure I always click full at the end, just to make sure there isn't even a tiny little gap somewhere. Now of course I've forgotten what I was trying to say before that happened. I think I was just basically going to say that locking elements like that the customer doesn't need to change, and that need to be there for the design to work. So to make sure that this white text will always be visible no matter what colors the photo that the customer uploads is, you put in the gradient and you just lock it so that they can't select it and it doesn't interfere with them selecting other elements. Another thing is, you can see this text block is huge. Some fonts have smaller, for example, if I change this font, just look at the space there, and if I change the font to that, see how it made it much smaller. I'm just going to undo. Look at the height of those two. Okay, so sometimes you want to make this smaller because it doesn't need to be this big to fit the text in. So where it says line spacing, I'm sure we covered this already, but I'm just going to refresh your memory. We're going to take it down so you can see how it makes that block shorter, and we're going to keep going. And what's important to note is you can go way smaller. It's not going to hide or cut off any of the text, but it just makes that block smaller, which makes it a lot easier to work with. And then because this is at the bottom, I'm going to bottom align it just in case the customer wants to say, we love Rufus so much, even though we're not dealing with Rufus anymore, but the point is here. So now let's say this is maybe just a little bit too close now, so you want to make it bigger so it separates those lines more, and you can do that as much as you want. You can just experiment with it. I generally, even though I am only anticipating a customer putting in a single word that it won't go onto a second line, I always do test it like I just did, so that if for whatever reason a customer wants to extend it onto 2 lines, whatever text they put in there, oh boy. I'm so sorry about that. My microphone malfunctioned. Oh, okay. So I was saying that I always test any text I add to see if the customer extends it onto 2 lines or 3 lines. Will it still work and look right in the spacing? So I do recommend doing that. Okay, so and then you also want to make sure, in this case, we want the text to be at the bottom of the blanket. So we align the text to the bottom so that if they add extra lines, the lines go up instead of down and off the blanket. If we were putting text at the top, we would do the opposite. Then we would make it the anchor at the top, so additional lines will go down. Okay, so we've put it at the bottom. Just a general thing whenever you're working with images or text, don't put them too close to the bottom. So you don't want to put this text right at the bottom of the blanket. It just doesn't look right. You need to give text breathing space. So if we look at that, you can see that does look a lot better. And in this case, I'm going to turn it just a little bit since it's handwritten, and I'm going to make it a little bit, so I want to make it bigger like I did, but we can't put a bigger size in here because 1000 is the maximum. So I'm just going to click and drag to decrease the width, and then click and drag to make it bigger. Alright, let's have a look. Okay, but now because it's so much bigger, we need that overlay to cover more of the photo. So on the left, to unlock it, we're going to go mouse over the padlock on the left there, click on it. Now you can see it's selected the overlay image. Going to move the mouse over the circle in one of the corners and click and drag to make it bigger. Can you see how the dark overlay is increasing in size? Okay, so I'm going to make it about that big, and then let's just drag it up there. Okay, so now I'm happy with it. I'm going to click on that. Okay, now let's say I maybe want to make it a bit smaller. Again, you can just click and drag, and now I will increase the width like that. And just to make sure it is centered, go to a line in the top here and click on the center. Okay, there we go. That's pretty nice. I'm happy with that. Okay, so before we finish with this, what you need to make sure of when you finish is, before you go on to post it for sale, just click on each item and make sure, okay, that's image 1, we've labeled it as photo, then the text is also text 1 and name. Now let's say that you have wait, let's put it there. Now let's say you want to no, in fact, you know what, we'll do a family name, because that's actually what this photo is for. So let's say Miller. Ugh, that M looks terrible in that. Let's see. Okay, I am really hoping that this microphone is not going to die again. I don't know why. Sorry, it's just giving me issues. Okay, so we're going to change the name. Yeah, much better. You'll sometimes find, I probably did mention this before, that some fonts, some letters don't look great. Try to always pick text that's going to look good in that font. So, you know, you can see that the M doesn't look great, and if I just change it to whatever, you can see the W isn't great either. So R is nice. I'm going to change that to Baker. Alright, so let's say we now want to say the Baker family. So I'm going to make that I'm going to change that font to, I think I'm going to go with a serif font. I quite like Cinzel. Okay, but obviously it needs to be a lot smaller. So I'm going to select the size there, and let's try 300, see how that looks. Yeah, that's pretty good. Just have to be careful about where you put it, because remember that the customer is going to replace this with their family name. So if I put it, you know, here, you can see it's overlapping the Baker. Let's have a look at it. I mean, it's not terrible, but it's not great. You can't put it to the left because they could be making that the name could be much wider. So if I change the name to Anderson, of course that doesn't prove my point. But okay, so let's say I put it there, but if I change this to let's see, is Smith gonna work for me? No, of course, it also looks fine. I'm trying to think of a name that will cause a problem here. Or let's just put a very simple short name. It still actually looks okay. But anyway, the point is really that you want to do what I'm doing here, which is to experiment with a bunch of different names, so that you can see if the name is long, how does the rest of the stuff fit in with it? If it's very short, is it still going to work? So you can see here, if the name is long, it is going to overlap that. So I've actually made my life difficult here because it's very difficult to incorporate text in the way I want to with this particular font. So I tell you what, I'm going to take that out, and I'm going to change this back to, I'm just going to put Baker. Alright, so what we're going to do now is we're just going to add an established date 20. Now as I've said before, you don't want to put 2025 or whatever in, because then in 3 years time it kind of just makes the design look outdated. So by putting in 20XX, then it makes it much more flexible. Okay, so we're going to change this font now to Cinzel. Okay, and we're gonna make it 300 size. Alright, that's still a bit too big. I'm also just going to make it not as wide. Alright, now I'm gonna try 100. Let's see. Okay, that's too small. So let's try 200. Okay, that's good. Maybe 150. Let's try 150. Okay, 150. Alright. Now we want to make it left aligned and put this, I want the left side lined up with the center, because the name is center aligned. So whether the name is long or short, this will still look right with it. Okay, and I'm going to change the letter spacing. As I mentioned before, you never want to put letter spacing on any of these script fonts, but for font like that we can, and you're just going to experiment with it and see. I'm going to make it a bit smaller. Yeah, I think I'm going to make it 1, but I think I'm going to make the font smaller. You know, this is what I'm doing now, is just something that you develop an eye for the more you work with these sort of things, and the more you look at, you learn from other people. Now, this font is a little bit too thin. I want it to stand out a little bit more, so I'm going to use the text stroke thing. These are all things that we discussed, I think, in our first design lesson. So we can have a look. I'm going to change the stroke thickness to 50. Makes it a little less bold. Let's have a look. Okay, and I'm going to move it up a bit. See. Alright, that's okay. Let's have a look now if I change this to Anderson. Oh, whoops. Anderson. And click OK. And it still works with that established year. Let's make a shorter one. And it still works. So that's a good spot for that. Okay, I think this needs to be a bit bolder. So here, text stroke, I'm going to make it 100, and let's see how we do. Yeah, that's good. You can see it looks bolder now. Yeah. Alright, so that is now the year, and we're going to make that a template object. And you see how now it says text 2 automatically. I'm going to change that to year. Alright, now the numbers, I know I did cover this when we did this before, but I'm just going to give you a little reminder. See, this one is text 1 and this one is text 2. Now these numbers don't actually matter. I could change this to text 100 and this one to 2000. It doesn't really matter. The point is the order of the numbers. So because this is number 1 and that's number 2, when the customer comes to customize it, you'll see name comes first and then year, because they will be listed in numerical order based on this URL parameter name. So as I said, you don't have to worry about that unless the order is not right when you go to the when you go here, because essentially you want it to be in an order that makes sense to the customer. Because let's say you had a whole bunch of text on here, you want them to appear here from top to bottom, left to right, so that it makes sense. You know, the same with the photos. If we did a photo collage, okay, so we're going to put one photo in there. I'm just going to copy and paste another photo. So let's say I want these both to be equal size, but you can see this one is overlapping. It's extending past the blanket thing. You click and drag over the two images, and then you just move your mouse over the bottom circle there and click and drag until you can see that line goes. Now it's within the boundaries of the blanket, and the images are equal size. But now you can see these are both image 1. So what happens if I leave it like that? When the customer replaces one photo, so you'll see now if I go here, I've selected the first image and I change it to this one, you can see here in the preview, it's a bit slow there. You can see in the preview, it's going to replace both of them because they both have the same image, the same URL parameter name. So I know that's a really scary term there. It sounds really complicated. It's not that complicated. It's okay. So this one is number 1, that one is number 1, which means you're telling Zazzle these are going to be this exact same photo. So to change it, you click on the second one, and then you can just change 1 to 2. And then you change that to photo 2, and you go back to the original one. This one is image 1, so you're going to say photo 1. So what happens then is when the customer goes here, I'm just going to replace this one with that. Okay, so you can see now the photos are different, and there's photo 1 and photo 2. So it's important that those are also in order so it makes logical sense to the customer. And I'm sorry if that doesn't make sense. Please do just let me know in the comments under this post, because you know, with brain fog I sometimes don't realize that I maybe haven't explained something in a way that makes sense. So you know, I used to develop courses for a living, but my skills have greatly diminished. So I suspect I'm not as good at explaining, well, not I suspect, I know I'm not as good at explaining things anymore. So please do let me know. I want this course, I want this course to be useful to you guys. I want you to learn as much as possible. So if I'm not explaining it right or anything's confusing you, please, please, please do comment below this post, and I will be happy to explain it to you. If I need to do another video, I'm happy to do that. Whatever it is that you need, please just let me know. Okay. Alright, so we are now done with that, and it looks lovely. By the way, this is the preview that I would choose for the blanket, just so they can see the size. Because remember, whichever image you have clicked, when you click the sell it button, that's the image that it will use. So if we go click sell it, here we go again. Press and hold. Oh, it's so annoying when this happens. Thankfully it doesn't happen a lot. It's really only a couple of times a year, if that it happens. Okay, so here we are. So you can see it's now given us that preview, but you can, sorry, I keep doing this. So you click on change options there, and you can change the image to one like that, because that is a much better preview than just the plain blanket on its own. Okay, so I want to go back, click on cancel. Okay. And then, as I said, you can change the size if you want. You see how it's telling me again the image is too large, so let's go, because you can use the same product to create just a different size version. But what you're going to see here is, in addition to the photo now being too small, it's extending past the boundaries of the blanket, and the reason being that the size, if you look at the medium is 50 by 60, the large is 60 by 80. So the ratio is not the same, and that's why you have to check your photo. See, even the height is not quite right. You have to check your photo or whatever images, and just make sure that it fits. Okay. So, sorry, what I was doing there is, if you double click on an image, it will show you the full image, so that if you want to move it around to align it nicely, you can do that, and then just click on crop again. Okay, so now the problem is that this photo is too small. It won't let us sell it because this is now on the large blanket. So I have a larger version. So you can see there, I've replaced it. Now I just created that larger version using AI. There's a tool called Upscale, but it's spelled UPSCAYL. This is it there. It's a really simple piece of software to use. It's available for free, so you can go and download it. The only thing you need to be aware of is, you select your image here, so it will just allow you to choose whatever image you want, and then you select a model. Now these, you will just have to experiment with them when it's a photo. When it's any sort of illustration, you're always going to use the digital art. So these different things, don't ever use the fast option, because it's just not good quality. So what I usually do is I will create a real Ezragan version, a Remacry, an Ultra Mix Balanced, and an Ultra Sharp, and then have a look at those photos, really zoom into them, and see which one looks the best. Sorry, I'm just trying to think about too many things at once. Okay, so I'm not going to go into a whole thing about the upscale. If you would like me to do a separate video on how to use upscale, I'm happy to do that, but I'm not going to do that here and now. Okay, so we have now covered photos on invitations and photos on larger products. So, you know, the larger products, obviously, you have to make sure that your photos are large enough and good quality enough. You know, products like, for example, the beach towel, also large. There are banners and all those kinds of things where you will need large photos. But you know, while we're talking about blankets are great for gifts for grandparents, parents, boyfriends, girlfriends, husbands, wives. There are a lot of different things that you can do with blankets. Yeah, you can do a search for blankets and see what other people have done, and just have a look. You know, again, as I've said before, going to have a look at the best sellers is a good idea because you can see what kinds of products are popular on Zazzle. You know, you can see it's at the moment there's a lot of dad and grandpa stuff because of Father's Day. You know, it's going to be a lot of golf stuff, a lot of socks and ties and all that sort of thing. But aside from the dad stuff, you can see there's business stuff that always sells. Kind of interesting that at the moment these name tags are big sellers. These cards, I wouldn't bother with these cards. I've designed a couple of them and they have sold occasionally, but you know, it's like 2, maybe 3 max per sale. So, and it's not like they're selling every day. So I personally don't bother with those or these either. But more of the gift stuff, you know, mugs, you don't make a lot of money unless you have a design that sells well. Sorry, I realize I'm now going into other things that I'm sure I've covered before. But the point is, you can have a look at these to see what kind, if you're looking at blankets, search for blankets and see what comes up, because you might get some ideas in terms of the kinds of blankets that you can design. So you're not looking at copying other people's design, but just seeing, oh, okay, there are a lot of blankets with pets on them, or there are a lot of blankets for grandmas, whatever it is. Just to get some ideas in terms of the kinds of products to design. But yes, photos, this is how you do photos and text. We've done them on invitations and now on large products. So you should be able to design now with photos and GIFs. Again, as I said, any questions, or if you're busy with a design and you have any issues, questions, please do just let me know. You can send me a private message if you don't want to post in the group. I'm more than happy to help, so please do ask. Okay, so that's it for this lesson. I really thought this was going to be like a 30-minute lesson, but yeah, I'm sure you guys are used to me yammering on for far too long. Yeah, so that's that. The next video I will do is the how to use graphics, illustrations, you know, where to get them, and how to incorporate them into your designs. You can do a lot of fun stuff with that, especially, you know, baby shower stuff, kids' birthday stuff, all that kind of thing. So that'll be the next lesson. I hope you guys are as well as possible, and I will hopefully have the next video done by the end of next weekend. Guys, take care. Better days for all of us, and take care of yourselves.